I'd like to begin today's topic by thinking about the ways that children can contribute to the development of curriculum. As we begin to think about planning and the directions we're going to take with our chosen topic, I want us to start by thinking about who children are and what we value about them. So I'd like to read a poem called The 100 Languages of Children by Loris Malaguzzi, who's the founder of the preschools of Reggio Emilia, Italy. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages, 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking, 100, always 100 ways of listening, of marveling, of loving, 100 joys for singing and understanding, 100 worlds to discover, 100 worlds to invent, 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages and 100 more, but they steal 99. The school and the culture separate the head from the body. They tell the child to think without hands, to do without head, to listen and not to speak, to understand without joy, to love and to marvel only at Easter and Christmas. They tell the child to discover the world already there, and of the 100 they steal 99. They tell the child that work and play, reality and fantasy, science and imagination, sky and earth, reason and dream are things that do not belong together. And thus they tell the child that the 100 is not there. The child says, "No way, the 100 is there." So in thinking about curriculum, I'd like you to reflect for a moment on what this poem tells you about what teachers need to consider in planning for children. As much as we often say that we are committed to children's development of curiosity, discovery, and investigation, that we want them to be happy and joyful and playful, it seems that so often school takes away those components of children, giving them one way to learn, one way to think, and one way to show what they know. Representation is a huge part of what we do in early childhood education, and it's important that we consider the different ways that children can show us. In this poem, they talk about 100. Try to think of 100 different ways that children can use materials and show you what they know, and then think about 100 more. Because even we as adults can play with the material and investigate and explore and think that we've planned for all the ways that children could possibly use it, and they will come up with something we had yet to consider. So in thinking about planning, it's important to consider the child's contributions to the process. It's important for them to have opportunities to recall personal experiences. Sharing stories about what they've experienced related to a particular topic is essential. This provides a foundation for you and a shared understanding for the entire group on what everyone already understands and what kind of real-life interactions they've had with the topic. They should have opportunities to represent their personal memories, whether this be through storytelling, drama, art, any kind of representation that they might want to use, but providing them with opportunities to make that learning and that understanding public. They need opportunities to discuss and compare common and different experiences. It's important that they realize that not everyone has had the same experience with a particular topic or a particular material as other children, and that they realize that these differences are opportunities for learning and growth. They also need to brainstorm current knowledge and ideas and formulate questions that they'd like answered, and this will be something that will help guide them in their investigative process. One representation I like to use in thinking about how adults and children work together to create curriculum is thinking about a spiral. When you think about a Slinky as a toy, it's really organic. When closed up, it's compact. It almost looks like it only has one entry point and one exit point, but when you pull it apart, you can see that there's spaces in between each of the circles and that there's this continuous spiral of things moving and engaging together and interacting with each other. And that's a sort of a model for curriculum development, how teachers and children work together in this format that is always informing each other, and together they formulate ideas for curriculum. In Susan Stacy's book on emergent curriculum in early childhood settings, she presents a model of a spiral for developing emergent curriculum with children. Teachers and children in this model work together, building off of children's experiences and interests to create meaningful curriculum built on big ideas. In this model, we begin with teacher dispositions. In the teaching and learning content item in this unit, talked a lot about dispositions. If you possess these dispositions, you will be able to create emergent curriculum with children that's really based on constructivist theory. In this class, you'll be required to demonstrate these competencies. So what this means is that you are going to develop a big idea. From this, you will go into classrooms and you will observe children in their play and you will engage with them for a couple of weeks and you will really see what prior knowledge children have on this topic. In thinking about Shelley's big idea of light, this would be you being in the classroom with them, seeing them play outside, talk about shadow play. Notice that at the end of the day it's darker than it is in the noon hour. You might see children playing on a light table with translucent blocks. You also might see them using things like telescopes and kaleidoscopes. You might see them playing with light switches. There's so many different ways that children are going to show what they know in their experience with light. From that, you're going to think about this big idea and how you can take what children know and have already experienced and start reflecting on that, talking to your mentor teacher, talking to students in class and discussion groups, and thinking about where you might go in terms of making decisions about planning. And really what you need to understand is that the planning process is in collaboration with others. If you're doing it all on your own, it's only your perspective you're providing. And so as you make your decisions, then you collaborate with children and you think about, wow, what is their play really telling me? What is the meaning behind it? What are some of their major interests that I can now use in planning for children? And it's that collaboration you have with children as it spirals around to planning activities that you're going to do with these kids. And you're going to be planning a math activity, a science activity, and another activity of your choice in engineering or technology that is going to really build off of what they already know about this big idea, but challenge them a little bit. How can I create a structure and a situation that is going to really push them in their thinking and make them consider new ideas and address the sort of the inconsistencies they have in their thinking and the misconceptions they have about this topic. And then you're going to go and reflect again and move back into the process and say, where do I go from here in planning again? Are the children really understanding this? Do they have knowledge? Have I challenged them? Where can I go with this assessment information further? As you've noticed in this planning spiral, nowhere have I yet addressed the issue of learning outcomes and standards. At this point, we're focusing on what children naturally do and are interested in and what's going to be even interesting for you. It's when we begin with standards and the outcomes we want children to demonstrate that guides the learning rather than the natural curiosity and interests we all have. And when doing that, we can force learning into a more didactic type of model. So in this class, we're going to start with where children are and where we are and how we can make learning exciting, and then think about how those learning outcomes and standards can fit into that model, which we'll be talking about next.